Oh, let's do the official. So welcome to the NativeScript Developer Day, the EU edition. This is my partner in crime, Julian Steiner, a big fan of NativeScript from quite a while, right?
Pretty much since I joined Progress, yeah, 2015.
That was a good time to join the NativeScript team.
I suppose. So yeah, you probably know him though, Sebastian. I don't know if you go to any developer conferences, he's likely to be there speaking about something, drones, robots, that kind of thing. Yeah. Something serious, code sharing. So yeah, you might have come across him. Yeah, and we're pretty much going to introduce you to today's agenda and the topics we're going to cover. And yeah, I guess that's our role today. And hope you're going to enjoy it. So we only have one day today, and we have 11 speakers for 10 sessions. That's quite a lot. That's quite a tight schedule. So please, you know, keep some discipline. It's going to be the German calling for discipline. There you go. Had to do it. But yeah, so we got breaks. We have a lunch break at 12, and we have a longer coffee break after. But please try and, you know, work with us on the schedule. First off, we want to thank the sponsors. Well, the first sponsor is pretty much it's us. Yay! You know, do a bit of a politician gesture. But a very, very special thank you to Nationale Nederlanden because, you know, they're hosting us here, and especially Rowdy.
Yeah, who's pretty much the chief instigator of this conference. And as well, for your knowledge, he's running NativeScript NL, so he's pretty much the Dutch guru of the NativeScript.
Get up for a second.
Come on, Rowdy.
The other speakers, just so people know who you are, could you get up?
Come on, speakers, get up.
Just so we get an idea.
Yeah, so perfect. If you have any good questions to these guys, grab them, ask them questions. It's probably a good idea.
Yep. All right, let's have a look a bit at the, you know, because it's a sort of introduction and we're going to look at the history of NativeScript. We're looking at, you know, where we are today.
Sure. So pretty much we started like early 2013, kind of the time. And it started just as an idea of like, you know, how can we change from hybrid to a better approach of building mobile applications, you know, because we're not happy with what we could do at the time. So let's see what we can do more. And pretty much in 2015, we open sourced the framework. So we allowed everybody to actually see the code and contribute and make changes. And as well, in May 2015, that was when we launched the first version of NativeScript, right? NativeScript 1.0. At that point, it was just JavaScript. Then a year later, exactly, we had version 2.0, which included the integration with Angular. And then pretty much earlier this year, we launched version 3.0, which had quite a nice improvements, which we'll talk about later on.
Yeah, so anecdotally, you know, I started speaking at conferences about NativeScript, yeah, late 2015, and back then, pretty much no one knew what it was about. You know, everyone was like, oh, just another cross-platform framework. You know, hey, we got already, you know, hybrid stuff. We got Xamarin and whatnot. What are you?
How very positive of you.
No, but that was really the sort of feedback you got in a bit. You know, and now it's completely different. There's really people going like, hey, you know, I've seen your nativescript.org and it looks great. Can you tell me about it? Hey, my colleague downloaded it the other day and he's quite happy using it. So it's completely changed feedback. And I think we also see that in the numbers, really. You know, we had a huge growth in downloads of the NativeScript NPM package, so the command line client is essentially. I think in August 2016, it was something like 16,000 downloads in that month. And in August 2017, it was over 150,000 downloads. So that's where this number comes from, just to give you an idea. We actually collect usage statistics at the command line client. You have to consent to it, so this number might actually not be accurate, but this is just builds, command line interface builds in 1 month. So over 750,000 command line interface builds in 1 month this summer. Also, 11,000 and more GitHub stars these days. That's always a good indicator, you know, how vital, how active an open source project is, really. Something like 3,000 issues on the repo, of which over 90% are closed. There's always going to be issues.
They're all
As long as
positive. They're all positive.
Yeah, they're all like,
They're
I
all
like it
thank
so
you
much,
notes.
plus one, plus one, plus one, you know. It's
Definitely.
pretty much
definitely.
it. So, yeah, we also have the community Slack, which is super active to the point that you can't really follow it anymore if you're in the room because it goes like whoop. Plenty of people there. We got the forum with over 1,000 active users, really. And this is just the community. And we're very happy that we could, build this kind of community. But of course, we're also a company interested in, selling to other companies, support contracts and stuff like that. And we got quite a good adoption in that space. I mean, one of the bigger names for sure, SAP. You probably heard of them. They're basing their enterprise mobile builder, Seam, I believe it's called, on NativeScript. And they actually did that on their own and only approached us when they were already in the project. So that's really pretty cool that we got this kind of enterprise adoption as well. So we got a strong community pillar and good adoption in the enterprise. Very salesy right now, but it's really good to have that confidence. And but to get back a bit at the technology and history, maybe.
Sure. So pretty much like Angular was one of the first frameworks that we integrated with NativeScript once we had the JavaScript version of it. And by the way, you can still use either JavaScript with NativeScript or Angular. But we are not going to stay just on Angular. So we already have a preview of integration with Vue, and Igor is going to talk about it just after this session. But we're also looking at Preact as one of the options to expand our community and enable other developers to use NativeScript, which is definitely a great thing to see.
Yeah, the Aurelia guys would really like a port.
They definitely would, yeah. But
anybody doing Aurelia? To start a community project? No? Okay.
It's a good shout, it's a good shout. Probably half of the people doing Angular after yesterday's workshop, so it's okay, it's okay.
Or maybe Vue after Igor's.
Sure. So in terms of NativeScript, NativeScript is not just a framework. Like we see it as a lot more than that. And NativeScript is not just this framework that allows you to build a stuff, but it's also tooling. And we continuously strive to improve the tooling that we have. So Playground is one of them. Basically the idea of Playground is ability for you to go to an online application where you can enter the code, and then basically you can create like a QR code. And then there's some additional mobile applications that you can use to scan that code, and that app appears on your phone. And then basically what you get is, without any setup whatsoever, you can start working on your application. It's not something that you should do for building necessarily production apps, but it might be good to just try things out. Or if you have an issue with something, you could basically recreate that issue in Playground and then share the link with us on the forum or on the GitHub. We have to grow that 11,000 somehow. So Playground is definitely one of them. Then also we have a ton of plugins available for NativeScript. And there's another talk today from Eddie, who built some of those. And so the marketplace is a great place to go and discover what sort of plugins we have. And also some of the plugins over there we mark as verified. So they're trusted by us, they have good documentation, and they're definitely well tested. Then NativeScript UI, it's something that we had for quite a while. It's basically an additional set of UI components. And as of next week, we made them free. So they used to be paid components. Now all of them are free. So that's a pretty good thing to hear. And then finally, we have Sidekick, which is like a supporting tool to the whole framework. So I'm just going to jump through it over a few slides. So Sidekick is an application that kind of is hosted on top of NativeScript CLI, which allows you to basically streamline your build of your applications. So it runs on a Mac, on Linux, on Windows. And the idea is that you start with Sidekick and you choose one of the templates. So you could say, I want to build an application with JavaScript and I want to use this template. You can give it a name, and then basically this will create the project for you using the CLI. And Sidekick is not an IDE. It's basically just a supporting tool. Then once you created a project, you can go add some plugins. So that will, again, go to our marketplace, give you a list of those, and help you with installing those plugins. It will also help you with managing your assets, choosing the versions of the frameworks you want to target. And then when you're ready to build, you could either do a local build if your setup is ready, or if you want to build the application, you could in the cloud, then there's additional option for that. So I think Igor is going to show you a little bit of Sidekick later on. But the key thing here is that you could actually use a Windows machine to build them for iOS, which is really powerful. And we begin with, as well, like additional integrations with various IDEs. So if you are a Visual Studio user, basically there's an extension for Sidekick that you'll be able to use from over there. And the preview number 2 is available already. So I would encourage you to download it and play with it because it's a great tool and can do quite a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, learning NativeScript. So there's books. There's loads of books, actually. There is one book written by Nathan and Nathaniel. I don't know if they met because they have a similar name. It's basically, they're not, well, the others are. Well, we get to the brothers. So this is NativeScript using Angular, mostly the book's focused. You can get it on Pact. I don't actually know Pact, to be honest, but yeah, it should be out there.
Publishing house.
And also, if you prefer just learning sort of vanilla NativeScript, then there is a book by the guys, they call themselves the Brosteins. It's Mike Branstein and Nick Branstein, who've written this book, and this book is actually free. So you can get it on NativeScript.org book. It's 450 pages, all of NativeScript goodness. I don't know if there is a Dutch book, to be honest. I know there is a German Angular book which has a few chapters on NativeScript. So whichever language preference you have, I think there should be something out there. But this one's free. That's the good thing. And we also have Native Scripting, which is run by Alex Ziskind and created. This is online courses, really, to learn certain aspects of NativeScript in depth, which is pretty cool.
I just want to add a quick word. So basically, I have some T-shirts from Alex. So if somebody wants a Native Scripting T-shirt, go and find me. And also, some of you may have sat on some leaflets. So we have a special discount code if you want to subscribe to Alex's online tutorials. So just let me know. If you don't have a card, I'll give you the code. It's fine.
Yeah. Which brings us to NativeScript 3, released in spring this year. Don't know if you tested it. Probably you did, because likely you're keeping up to date. You might have had to change some of your applications slightly. But yeah, this release was really focusing on developer experience and performance. That's the two key areas. Developer experience. Well, developer experience is, for example, debugging. Using the full extent of Chrome DevTools with NativeScript is really cool, because you can see here the Elements tab. So we have NativeScript markup here, not HTML, NativeScript markup in the Elements tab of a Chrome debugger tools. Of course, you can also use the usual breakpoints and all that. You can do some profiling. That all really adds to the developer experience when using NativeScript. And the other topic, performance. There's actually a session on that today by Stanimira and Alex, I presume. And they're going to learn about it in depth, but maybe to say a few words. On Android, you can use something called Heap Snapshots or Snapshots, which is essentially taking the binary blob of the already executed and ran JavaScript and just load that straight into memory. And that way it doesn't, the framework doesn't have to fetch and parse all the JavaScript at startup, but it can start with this sort of binary snapshot. There's obviously a lot of caveats to that, and maybe you're going to talk about that later on. But it's an interesting technique for Android, and it really, really increases startup time. I think this is just the average startup time increase with the 3 release, but add to that the Webpack and snapshot approach, and you'll really see what it's about.
Yeah, so right? It used to be something like almost 10 seconds to 3 seconds now to load. So that's actually a pretty good improvement, which you get almost for free. Just upgrade your project to 3 if you're not on it already. Do some small changes, and you get that startup time, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. Is that me? So as well, like internally, the way we test our framework is actually quite cool. It's worth for you to know. We pretty much run like over 2,000 unit tests. We have over 400 UI tests, and we pretty much run those tests for every pull request, for every change. We continuously basically update as well our tests as our framework is growing, so that we can basically deliver the best possible framework over time. And for pretty much this is a picture of some of the devices that we use. So it's not that we have just a couple of Android devices there and one iPhone. We try to test it on as many devices as possible. So it's not just emulators, but physical devices as well, which is quite cool. And we test on all sort of versions of Android. So we go from 17 to 26, and we test for iOS on version 9, 10, and 11, which is quite good. And basically, all of that allows us to give you the support of the latest versions of every operating system. So iOS 11 was released. You were able to build against it the very same day. For Oreo, the day it was released, you could as well build projects using Oreo and its latest API and features. And a really good example of that was when Apple announced AR Core. That was, again, Eddie, who said, like, oh, this looks interesting. So he basically checked out the documentation, and he was able to use NativeScript with JavaScript, basically writing against that API, and then implement this small application that allows him to, detect the plane, drop some cubes over there, or one or many, and then just basically play with it. And that was done like in a couple of days, as far as I remember, right? Where is Eddie? Yeah. And as far as I know, I think this is already available on GitHub. So if you want to try it yourself, grab Eddie, he'll point you out in the right direction. But yeah, this is already available.
If you're wondering about use cases for that, there's a really cool IKEA app out there where you can, for example, you look at your room in a VR glasses or whatever, and you can put the new chair or the new sofa there and just rotate it around and put it there. You can even look under it and see your own carpet. It's really crazy. It's really cool. So this is exciting stuff, I suppose.
So, and you can now build an app like this with NativeScript, because why not?
Yeah, for sure. But typically, today we're facing more sort of earthly issues. I mean, NativeScript delivers essentially, helps you with the front-end part, with the actual app. But, thinking of a typical business application or even consumer application, you'll always need, or most of the times you'll need some sort of authentication. You'll need some sort of backend for your data. You'll need some sort of maybe serverless functions, because that's all the craze these days. So yeah, you need some API calls somewhere. You might want to monitor engagement with your app. How are users actually using it? Which functions do they use? Which they aren't using, you might want to remove. And you always have a sort of operations issue. Running a backend can be hard, in terms of security, in terms of compliance with whatever legal frameworks you have. And thus far with NativeScript, we've been, we still are completely open about it. So build your own backend, use whichever cloud technology you like. There's plugins for Firebase. You've got all sorts of options to really provide your backend for your app. But very, very recently, Progress acquired Kinvey, which is one of the leading mobile backend as a server providers, mobile backend as a service providers. So Kinvey offers all that authentication, cloud data store, push notifications. It has a really cool, what they call Flex SDK, which essentially is a way for you to host any kind of node service using the Kinvey API in the cloud there. It's really cool. It's not a toy. It really works for real world scenarios. And I think that's sort of, it's nice because it completes the story, If you don't have to use it, as I said, you're free to use Firebase or whatever you prefer, but it's sort of coming all from us. And there's already quite a lot of material on it. There's a full tutorial. There is a NativeScript Kinvey template. So you can get started with that pretty much today. And I believe getting started today is a good word.
So we all hope that you enjoy the day. We'll have a couple of breaks, so let's try to basically use the breaks for the toilets and everything. And while the sessions are here, let's try all of us to be here. So next up, we get Igor. So he's just gonna get wired up. So Igor is the guy behind our Vue story, right? Like Igor didn't know much about NativeScript until the moment he decided to put Vue and NativeScript together. So he already knew a bit of Vue. He decided to learn some NativeScript and put them together. So basically what he's gonna be showing you is basically the results of his hard work that he's gone through this year. And I, for one, I'm very excited about it. So like everybody knows that, like everybody that knows me knows that I'm very excited about Angular and I'm a very big fan. But there's a lot of buzz around Vue. And Vue is well known for giving you ability to build applications in a very quick way. Like apparently you can learn it like on a matter of days, which is very, very impressive. So I'm looking really forward to actually having that opportunity, for the Vue developers to use NativeScript and build mobile apps with it.